Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Lost Ark roster update mini-series, where today we're talking about my main Empress Arcanist, and this is also going to be the last class that we have on the list to talk about. Now, going into Tier 4, there have been some very fun changes in terms of quality of life to Arcanist, which make her feel very fun to play. However, when it comes down to her DPS profile or her damage profile, a lot of her damage is going to be in the T-skill, and that is something that can lead to some frustrations when it comes down to how you want to build her. Now, there are a fair amount of different builds to Arcanist. I play a bit of an off-meta build myself, which still performs quite well, does a lot of damage, but it is not the ceiling build. I'll be talking about those as well. But this is my own personal favorite build to play. Now, in terms of her playstyle, it is very simple. We have blue skills, which apply cards to the boss, and you can also keep track of them next to your character. And then we have red skills that detonate those cards to deal damage. So you basically stack the cards, and then use a red skill to detonate them, and that is essentially going to be the playstyle. Now, in terms of her identity, it's also very simple. You can see this purple bar filling up. Every time that we deal damage to the boss, the bar is gonna fill, and when it is full, it pulls one of our cards. We have a lot of different cards. Some of them are very strong, like Cull, Wheel of Fortune, Twisted Fate. Very strong potential card, this one. The other cards are still useful, some are kind of useless, but for the most part, they will be giving you some sort of a damage increase when it comes down to cooldown reduction buffs, damage buffs, crit buffs, resetting skills, etc. Now, because of this resetting skill thing, our T-skill is something that benefits from certain cards quite a bit. Now, your T-skill does a ridiculous amount of damage, a little bit too much, in my opinion, and Wheel of Fortune can reset its cooldown. Cull can guarantee its crit rate, or well, give it a 100% crit rate, which in the case of Blunt Thorn means full Blunt Thorn efficiency, and Twisted Fate has the chance to give it 40% bonus damage. So you can see how those three cards can be very spicy when you combine it with your T-skill, being able to use it more than you're supposed to use it during the fight, and also giving it damage buffs that other classes just simply would not be able to get. Because of that, your T-skill is kind of very hit or miss, because at base this thing only has a 50% crit rate, so it's not even guaranteed to crit, and then it's also not guaranteed to have all of these other card effects on top of that. So you could have a T-skill that does maybe 1 billion damage because it didn't crit, but if you get the Cull, if you get a good roll Twisted Fate, your supporter buffs are up, you're playing Blunt Thorn, it can all of a sudden hit 7 billion, where it does more damage than your Hyper Awakening. So it's very hit or miss how much damage the T-skill is gonna do. Like, is it gonna crit, yes or no? Do you have a Cull to get Blunt Thorn efficiency, yes or no? Did it actually crit, or did you get Blunt Thorned? Because just having a Cull does not guarantee its crit rate anymore. So it just feels kind of bad. Like, if I could just turn off the numbers and play this class, super fun to play, but seeing your T-skill not crit, even though you've got like a Cull running, just feels incredibly bad. In general though, very fun playstyle, definitely still my favorite class to play, if I would not be seeing any of the numbers. But yeah, the T-skill does kind of annoy me sometimes. Another thing that can be a little bit annoying, especially if you're learning the class, is this skill right here, Call of Destiny. This gives you a very powerful crit damage buff, but it only lasts for 3 seconds, and you of course want to use your DPS skills when this damage buff is active. It would be really nice if they upped the duration to like 4 seconds, because that would already fix a lot of the issues, because your T-skill, for example, does have a fairly long cast time, so if you cast your T-skill as the second red skill in your rotation, then you might actually not land it underneath this damage buff, which feels very bad. And also if you have, for example, that Wheel of Fortune card where you can use your T-skill 2 times, you actually can't cast it twice in the same rotation because Call of Destiny will run out. So you'd always like send your T-skill, and then you would send another red skill, and you barely have enough time to do that. So if there's any bit of downtime in there, then you don't have enough time to get that second red skill underneath Call of Destiny, and this buff is very important to be active on all of your damage skills when you do use them. So that's kind of the gameplay, I guess, and kind of my gripe with the T-skill. Let's then jump into the build. So it is a full spec class with crit as a secondary, running Grudge, Raid Captain, Adrenaline, MPE, and Cursed Doll. The reason why MPE is so good is because a lot of your skills actually are not Hitmaster skills. So while Arcanist is a non-positional class, everything in your kit except Celestial Rain, actually has a front attack or a back attack positional on it. Even your T-skill is a back attack, so you can hit it from the back to get that extra bit of crit rate on it, but they will not benefit from Hitmaster. Now, however, you could run Hitmaster before, because the detonation damage, which is the majority of your damage, that does benefit from Hitmaster. However, because all of your skills do use mana, you can just run MPE, and now the on-hit damage also benefits from the engraving itself. And the reason why the on-hit does actually matter is because your T-skill has very high on-hit damage. So it has high detonation damage, but also high on-hit, which is why MPE is kind of the go-to. Also helps with our mana issues that we might have when playing this class. For gems, we run damage gems on all of our red skills, so Celestial Rain, 4 of a Kind, Secret Garden, and Serendipity, and then we run cooldown gems on everything else except Serendipity. That's the only one that does not get a cooldown gem. So yeah, very simple right there as well. In terms of skill builds then, let's go over that real quick. So this is my own personal build that I prefer to play. I'll go over the 7 basic skills first, and then I'll go over the optional skill where I take Dealer's Flip instead. So 4 of a Kind, one of our DPS skills. This is the 3rd priority skill to spend your card stacks on. These are the tripods that I use on it. Scratch Dealer, this is your synergy skill, also gives you movement speed as well as an attack speed buff. So in case you were wondering about Raid Captain, this skill gives us a movement speed buff, this skill gives us a movement speed buff, and this skill also gives us a movement speed buff. Seeing how those are 3 stacking skills, as long as we are stacking on the boss, which we need to do before using a detonation skill, we're gonna have a movement speed increase, so that is why Raid Captain works just fine on this class. So yeah, that's Scratch Dealer. Celestial Rain, our highest DPS skill outside of the T skill. These are the tripods. Spiral Edge, this is one of our main stacking skills. Call of Destiny, very important tripod for this crit damage node over here. Serendipity, this is our counter skill. This is also our lowest priority skill to use, because this is the only skill that does not have a crit rate tripod. So if you look over here, 44% crit rate, 45% crit rate, and 40% crit rate. Serendipity instead has a, where is it over here, 500% crit damage buff instead. So in general, we don't use Serendipity as a high priority skill because the chance that it crits is kind of low. It's only a 50-50 if it crits, yes or no. But if we have a Cull card running, again this one, which gives us a 100% crit rate increase, now Serendipity becomes our highest DPS skill because we have the guaranteed crit there. Unless of course we're playing Blunt Thorn, then it's still not guaranteed. But in general, like, Serendipity jumps up the priority list if a Cull is active. But in general, lowest priority, if Cull is there, highest priority. And then Secret Garden, this is the last skill that we are going to be using for our red skills. We also have 2 quick recharges on here to kind of help with the cooldown reduction, and we can also use Wealth Runes on our red skills to help fill our identity gauge faster. So this purple bar that is going to be filling up, if you have Wealth Runes equipped, you will fill more of the purple bar. Then for the final skill, I like using Dealer's Flip. This has a movement speed tripod and then more cards applied, and then you can jump back to the boss. I like using this for 2 reasons. 1, it's an extra stacking skill, so you can get more red skills out over the course of a fight. And 2, mobility. I really love the mobility that I get from this skill. It's definitely saved my ass a bunch of times when I was progging Mordum hard mode a couple of weeks ago. Now, in general, people don't use this skill because outside of stacking more, it doesn't really provide anything. Instead, people like using Evoke. Evoke is a skill that you can use to draw more cards, because if you put your Wealth Rune on here, this skill alone will draw 1 card from your deck, so makes it quite powerful. The more popular option nowadays, though, is to run Stream of Edge. This will give you a bunch of crit rate through this tripod over here. When you max it out, it gives about, I think, 32% crit rate, give or take. So this makes you play Blunt Thorn a whole lot more efficiently. So what you would do with Stream of Edge is you can play Swiftness if you want. You just completely sack the crit rate stat and you go into Swiftness. Or you play a higher crit variant where you take 5 points into Swiftness, 5 points into crit, and then you run Stream of Edge, and then you play Blunt Thorn to actually still have a good amount of Blunt Thorn efficiency, and you still have some Swiftness as well alongside it. because of course when you have less stacking skills, you're gonna use less red skills, but because of the swiftness stat, you can still get more red skills in, because now swiftness kind of lowers the cooldown enough that you get to use your main 3 stacking skills, Scratch Dealer, Spiral, and Call of Destiny, a lot more often. So that's kind of why people like using Stream of Edge. It's definitely the strongest build that is out there right now. However, the reason why I don't care about using it that much is because the majority of your damage, even with Stream of Edge, when playing Blunt Thorn, comes from having a Cull card on your T-skill. If you don't have a Cull card on your T-skill, it doesn't do those ridiculous damage numbers. And it doesn't matter if you have Stream of Edge, Evoke, or Dealer's Flip. The Cull card needs to be there. If it's not there, it doesn't do the ridiculous damage. So that's why I'm like, I might as well just use my favorite skill and then just pray I get a Cull card instead. That's essentially going to be the same thing as playing Stream of Edge. Of course, I know that Stream of Edge will still buff my other red skills more, but the damage difference wasn't really that big. And because I'm also just personally better at playing this specific build that I'm playing right now, my Call of Destiny uptime was much better when I played this build, when I compared it to playing the Stream of Edge build. So that kind of made up for the damage difference. So this technically is the highest ceiling build using Stream of Edge, but it does require you to play better, whereas I am playing better with my own personal build, which is making it do the same amount of damage than the high ceiling build. So that's kind of like the idea behind it, why I am still playing Dealer's Flip, because it's more fun and I am just better at it, and me being better at my build makes it so that it does about the same damage as me playing worse with the ceiling build, if that makes any sense. Let's then go into the Arc passives. Now for this one, very simple. We take 10 points into crit, full spec, and then we take all of the cooldown reduction that we can get. So 1 point in the optimized training and then double cooldown over here. Final note, you either take Standing Striker or Blunt Thorn. Standing Striker is going to be more of a steady DPS node, I guess you could say, because you don't have those high highs of Blunt Thorn with a Cull card. But you also don't have those low lows where you have all of the cards ready for your T-skill, and Blunt Thorn decides to say, no, we're not critting this time. So that's why I've kind of jumped back to Standing Striker now, because I just got so frustrated at Blunt Thorn, like, cucking me on my T-skills. It's like, I have the Cull card ready, I have the T-skill ready, all the support buffs are up, I pressed my Atropine, I sent the T-skill, and it doesn't crit, because Blunt Thorn decided to say fuck you, and then you just kind of die inside. On the other hand, if Blunt Thorn decides to not be a bitch, you see some ridiculous numbers which can give you very high highs. So if you want to chase those high numbers, play Blunt Thorn. But I got so annoyed at it last week that I was like, nah, I'm going back to Standing Striker for a bit. Honestly, I'll probably flip-flop between the two of them, because with Standing Striker you see steady numbers on your T-skill, but you never see those ridiculous numbers. So I might switch back to Blunt Thorn like next week or something when I feel like it. But yeah, you can play either of them, it's up to you. Blunt Thorn in general will make you do more damage, but if you just get unlucky with Blunt Thorn, then you're just gonna die inside and it's miserable to play. For Enlightenment then, we just go straight down. For the side note, it depends on what you play. In general, I like using this one, but if you play with the Evoke skill, then you want to use Knight of the Empress instead, because Evoke is a normal skill, and this tripod does reduce normal skill deck meter gain by 50%, and the main reason why you take Evoke in the first place is to generate more cards. Why would you want to cut that in half by using this tripod? So if you run Evoke, run Knight of the Empress. If you're not running Evoke, the choice is yours. Do you want to get an extra card in your deck, or do you just want to see bigger numbers on your Ruin skills? And then for the Leap, running it like this, damage on the T-skill because it's just so strong, cooldown reduction on the T-skill because your T-skill can literally do more damage than your Hyper Awakening, so casting it more often makes more sense. And then we also take some cast time increase on the T-skill because it has a very long animation time, so cutting down on that is going to be quite nice. And then we take 3 points into quads, just makes it do ridiculous damage. The other note does give it 30% crit rate on level 3, however even those 30% only brings it up to 80%, and you just get so much less damage compared to quads, so it's better to just gamble it and maybe not crit as many T-skills, because they might just crit on their own, or you might have a call ready, then taking this note. This note just makes you do much less damage with the T-skill. I feel like they should either rework this one and just like bake in the crit rate to your T-skill and then just nerf the T-skill damage in general, and maybe like nerf the cooldown or something. to kind of like fix this class, because I feel like too much of this class currently is baked on having Blunt-Thorn and having a Cull card for your T-skill and then just doing ridiculous numbers with your T-skill. I would much rather they nerf the damage of the T-skill, make it so that Blunt-Thorn is not like a very desirable choice anymore, so you can just play Standing Striker, and then you can maybe take this to like boost the crit rate of your T-skill so it like always crits, make it 40% or something instead of 30%, and then I feel like the class would probably be in a much better position, because right now it is just do or die. Does your T-skill crit, yes or no? Does your T-skill have those ridiculous cards, yes or no? If the answer is yes, you're gonna be MVP. If the answer is no, you might literally be bottom DPS. So I wish there was a little bit less variance on the T-skill itself. The cards themselves are fine, but I feel like your T-skill is just way too much hit or miss for if you're gonna do damage with it, yes or no. So I hope they kind of change that at some point in the future. But I know that some people that are chasing those ridiculous numbers might really enjoy it. So good for them, I guess. But I personally hope that they kind of rework how the T-skill works in terms of its damage profile compared to the rest of your kit. Because your T-skill will literally do between 40 and 60% of your total damage output. And then everything else is like 15 to 20% or something like that. Not even that much, because if you have like 3 skills that do 20%, then you're already over the 100% cap for like your total damage contribution. But yeah, that's like my mini Arcanist rant, I guess you could say. Class is super fun to play in tier 4. She got so much quality of life that her playstyle is just super fun. It's just so unfortunate that basically all her damage is in the T-skill, and if it doesn't crit, then you're gonna be bottom DPS. And if it does crit, the class might feel a little bit OP. So I hope that they change it at some point in the future. But that is gonna round out the mini-series on my roster. Of course, if you have any questions about Empress, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, or if you have any other questions about any of the other classes in my roster, then feel free to leave them in their own specific videos. They're all up on my channel. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.